Today I'm going to show you how you can render or start rendering material sphere. So what I have over here are 4 material spheres. One is glass, first one here. Try to paint some metal here, rubber, and some polished wooden blanks. So what we're going to do, we're going to find decent references to base ourselves on, open those in Photoshop, and then try to paint the same material on a rounded form. So here I painted on a sphere, but you can choose whatever form you want to use. I have my reference picture to the left, lock it, maybe right click on it and make it gray. This is the silhouette we're going to paint on, and right now what I want is like the same material like I have on the wheel here, the tire over here. I want it on my sphere. First, the matte rendering. If you look at the surface here, it's quite matte. We don't have very sharp or clear highlights. We don't have a lot of contrast going on, going from the light to the shadow side. So that's something we want to get correct first. So I'll lock the transient pixels. Make a darker value. What you can do here is like always paint on top of the reference to see if you get the value or if you got the value correct. So I can go a step darker here, something like this should work. So lock transient pixels, a shadow mask, and here the material is quite dark already, so maybe we can start with a dark value here, just fill it up, and then we go lighter for the light mask. Blend everything a bit more. Like this. Voila. So this is the matte rendering. Right now, if you zoom in a bit more on the reference here, what we see is we get small shifts of value on the tire here on the surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make or tweak an existing brush here, around pen pressure, and I try to make a brush that mimics the same effect, or that gets me the same effect. We can start with color dynamics. So we have hue, saturation, brightness. We don't need hue and saturation because we're not working with color. What I want is some kind of brightness jitter, so that will, when I paint with a certain value, if you zoom in, Photoshop is going to, so you can see here like darker and lighter values in between. Photoshop is going to change the brightness. I'll put it on 44, for example. You would get something like this. So I'll put it on 4. Looks nice. Scattering maybe. Scatter around a bit. Spacing here we can play with. Even the shape. Angle, no fade, roundness again, fade. That's maybe too much. Yeah, something like that can work. So let's try. Delete. What I'm doing here is like pick the value. I know it's going to get lighter or darker because we have the color dynamics active. And just I'll go over it so you get a rougher surface here. So I color pick the values from light mask, shadow mask, so the values where I'm painting, because otherwise you're going to shift your values. Okay, this should work. Right now I'm going to concentrate on the lines on my tire here. What you can do before you select another brush is save the rubber brush first. So you can select the new or the icon here and make new brush, give it a name, rubber. Going to uncheck this one, press OK, and right now it's saved and with the correct settings. Right, I'm going to select the hard round, hardness 100%, and just make 3 lines evenly spaced. So I'll move this one over here like this, maybe rotate a bit. And what I want right now is those lines warped or wrapped around my sphere here. Quite easy. What we do is we select the sphere, so we get a selection, make sure we have the line selected, go to filter, distort, spherize, click on that, put it 100% mode normal, press OK, and as you can see here the lines get distorted around the sphere. I don't need the lines here or the values, the shapes coming out of it, so I invert the selection and press delete. Lock the transient pixels, make them a bit darker. So here we can, for example, paint with the rubber brush. So we get something like this. It's quite big, so that means that we are like zooming in a bit on the surface here, but that's no problem. Okay, I have the smaller lines around it, so I select a hard round, and maybe here we want to put the shape dynamics on, pen pressure. So if you press soft we get a very thin line, if you press harder it gets thicker. What you can do is set on pen pressure or maybe fade, so then it's like a set amount, or after a certain time Photoshop is going to fade the brush stroke. Let's see here. For example, 90. You will get something like this. Yeah, can work. Thicker. That's too much. For 95. Yeah, let's try it. put one over here. Straight. And the closer I get to the edge here, the closer I'm going to put my strokes together. Probably also want to make it a bit smaller, because otherwise it gets thicker. Make a quick mask, for clipping mask here. So it doesn't really matter if you don't get like the exact shape down. Just make sure the closer you get to the edge here, they get closer and closer together because of perspective. Like this. Okay. Then I would just make a new layer on top. If you look at this value, it's still a bit too dark in our rendering. So I'll color pick it, make it a bit brighter, something like this. Select the rubber brush and go over it. Okay, probably want to give those guys a bit more attention, so what I'm going to do here is going to give it some kind of thickness just by adding a lighter value in the inside here to make it pop a bit more. This finishing touches here, but before we add the finishing touch, we want to concentrate on the cast shadow. Don't forget about it. Okay, and here what we want to do is make sure we break up the shape of the sphere here. So I'll just make a new layer on top, so I don't really have to manage my layers here to fix it, but of course you can if you want. Okay, and maybe we can still add like the tiny dots of dirt, sand. brighter, a bit darker. So what I'm doing here, I'm painting and then also erasing to get a certain shape. So not every brush stroke is the same. It's always nice to have some kind of variety. Let's see if we can push the light mask here a bit more. Just a little bit. A bit like this. Okay. Should work. Maybe here's some small reflection light can work, so I'll make a new layer. Again, you can make everything on one layer if you want. I'm just going to add a little bit of reflection here. So what I do, I pick the value of my surroundings, which is the light gray, go over it, I get a new value here. This is probably too light if you compare it with the darkest value in the light mask, which is something around here. So this is too bright, so I'll pick a darker value here, go over it again to fix it, and then I have the value of my reflected light. See if we can push the values here a bit more, just to let it read a bit better. So I'll use a darker value here. Darken this part a bit. So I made some other material spheres too. I'll show them right away. What I did is I increased the speed a bit so it doesn't get too boring to look at. Okay, this is it. Thank you for watching.